she nearly slipped into a river. The struggling dad who saved her didn't know she was a CEO. Falling it was a gray afternoon on the city's riverwalk. The kind of day when the clouds threatened rain, but never delivered. Daniel Hayes, a single dad, had just finished a long shift unloading trucks. His shirt was still damp with sweat, his back ached, and his mind was on the grocery list he barely had the money to cover. His daughter, Lily, was waiting at home with homework spread across the kitchen table, and he wanted to be there before she gave up in frustration. As Daniel hurried along the river's edge, he heard a sharp cry. Ahead, a woman in heels had lost her balance on the slick stone path. One wrong step, and she would tumble straight into the rushing water, without a thought. Daniel dropped his bag and lunged forward. His hand caught her wrist just as her heel slid off the ledge. For a terrifying second, both of them teetered. But with a grunt of effort, Daniel pulled her back onto solid ground. The woman's chest heaved as she steadied herself. Her long dark hair clung to her cheeks, and her tailored suit worth more than Daniel's entire paycheck was smeared with mud. You saved me," she whispered, her voice shaking. Daniel brushed it off, embarrassed. Anyone would have done the same. Just watch your step next time. This path is dangerous. But she stared at him as though she'd never met anyone quite like him. No, she said firmly. Not everyone would have. She introduced herself simply as Claire, offering no title, no hint of the world she came from. What Daniel didn't know was that she was Claire Donovan, CEO of a billion-dollar tech company accustomed to boardrooms, not riverbanks. For once, she wasn't being admired for her power or wealth. She was just a woman who had nearly fallen, saved by a stranger with calloused hands and kind eyes. Claire noticed the wear on his shoes, the tired slump in his shoulders, and the way he spoke of Lily with pride when she asked about him. There was a quiet strength in him, a strength money couldn't buy. Days later, Daniel received a phone call that would change everything. Claire had tracked him down, insisting she owed him a debt. But what began as gratitude quickly turned into something more. She saw in him not just a savior, but a man who lived for something greater than himself. And for the first time in years, Daniel felt seen not as a struggling dad barely holding on, but as the man who had unknowingly caught the CEO who was still falling, in more ways than one. Daniel Hayes lived his life in small steps, one paycheck at a time, one bill at a time, one moment at a time. His daughter Lily was only 10, sharp-eyed and imaginative, the anchor that kept him steady after his wife left years ago. Life wasn't easy, but Daniel kept moving forward. That day at the river, when he pulled Claire Donovan back from disaster, he didn't think twice. To him, it was instinct, but to Claire, it was life-changing. A few days later, Daniel came home to find a black sedan parked in front of his modest apartment building. A woman stepped out polished, radiant, and far too out of place in the cracked parking lot. "Daniel Hayes?" she asked, her voice steady. He squinted. "Claire?" She smiled faintly. "Yes, I had to find you." Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "You didn't need to really. I'm just glad you're okay." But Claire shook her head. "You don't understand. People pull me into meetings, they pull me into deals, but no one ever pulled me out of something real. You did, and I can't forget that." Over coffee in a small diner, Claire listened as Daniel talked about raising Lily. His words were filled with love, but Claire saw the fatigue behind his eyes. He worked long hours at the shipping yard, yet still found time to sit with Lily every evening, helping her dream bigger than their circumstances. In turn, Daniel learned little about Claire. She dodged questions about her work, simply saying she ran a business. To her, it felt freeing to be seen as just Claire, not as the CEO whose face appeared on magazine covers. But their worlds kept brushing together. Claire's driver insisted on picking her up outside the diner. Daniel noticed the way staff treated her with deference when they recognized her. It puzzled him, but he didn't press. One rainy evening, Claire invited Daniel and Lily to her company's charity gala, claiming she wanted Lily to see something new. Reluctantly, Daniel agreed. When they arrived under crystal chandeliers and surrounded by people in tuxedos, Daniel finally learned the truth. A reporter whispered loudly, "That's Claire Donovan, the youngest female CEO in the city." Daniel froze. Lily's eyes widened, and Claire, usually so composed, looked almost afraid. "You lied," Daniel said quietly. "I didn't lie," Claire replied softly. "I just didn't want you to see me as them." Daniel clenched his jaw. "And what exactly am I supposed to see you as?" Falling in the days that followed, Daniel kept his distance. His pride bristled at the idea that a woman with everything would look twice at a man who had so little. But Claire didn't give up. One night, she showed up outside his apartment in the pouring rain, without her car, without her entourage. "I don't need saving from rivers anymore," she said, water streaming down her face. "But Daniel, I think I'm falling anyway." "For you." He wanted to resist, to say no. But Lily, peeking from the window, whispered, "Dad, she looks like she means it." And Daniel realized that maybe he hadn't saved Claire that day. Maybe they had saved each other. That's the extended version, with conflict, romance, and emotional payoff.